Well, hello my friends. I'm back in my shed. Today I want to show, due to popular demand, if you want to call it that, quite a few of you guys requested that maybe I show how to make a star. It's actually fairly simple. Tools that I do it on does not mean that you have to have the same tools. Now, I've got, I'm lucky in some ways. I got a bandsaw that I can do it on. I got the table saw. I've got a miter box, or a chop saw, and got the radial arm saw. Any of those three will do it for you. The first thing you need is two different color woods. Something contrasting so you can come up with the design. And you need to set up for a 45-degree angle on whichever tool you're going to use. Now, I'm going to show you a little jig that I got that you can make if you have a bandsaw. You can make a jig something like this. And this, of course, I can rotate it to several different degrees. It's a sliding jig, so oops, I just locked the blade in. It's a sliding jig, sliding table, and I have the degrees marked over here for the different angles that I could possibly use. Have all the angles here. I got a 0 mark for reference on this piece right here. So if I wanted 45, I would just come up and line it up at 45 degrees. And that's what I would need. And with that, I could run my piece, make my first cut, 45 degrees, second part. And I'm going to do it on the table saw on my sled. So hopefully you got a sled, but if you don't have a sled, I mean, you can even use your sled that came with your table saw. I got a shop-made one because I didn't have one for my saw, so I just made one up. So anything that you have is usable. So seeing that my sled goes all the way up beyond 45 degrees, I'm going to use this for the sake of ease and show you exactly what you would do with any setup that you have. The first thing you do is you make a cut and you get your first angle cut, and you don't, you know, just make an angle cut, 45 degrees, and I'll show you the next. Okay. The next step is the key to it. And I'm going to use my calipers, but if you don't have calipers, you just need a piece of the same stock, and you need to get the width of your stock. So I got a piece right over here, and the key is to come up and measure exactly your width, because that's exactly how long the width of your board is, how long you need to make this piece. So with the calipers, since I have them, but if you don't have them, like I said, you can do it any other way. Get an exact measurement down here. Let me bring you in. Okay, get the exact measurement of the width of your board, and you're going to do a transfer and get that exact measurement going this way. Set it back up on your table saw, right up to the curve, but you want to save the line. You want to make sure that you don't cut the line off. So, looking at that, and my line of my blade that looks to be pretty much right on it. But I adjust it, and then when you have that, I'm lining up my pencil line with this side of the blade that will save me the whole piece. So I gotta stop it in place and do one sample cut, and just one, and test it. Okay, so I got the same width as I do the same diameter of the wood itself. Okay? And that's the key to making a star. They have to be the same size. You cut 8 of these for each star that you want. Have your 8 pieces cut up. You can do a test, but I really don't need them. What I do is I join them up. Cut with cut, or flat with flat. So you know, the end grain with end grain when I'm putting them together, and that's how I orient them. So I go that way. Let's see if you can see that. So you make an arrow, and then you just continue, and you find whichever orientation you have the first piece up. In other words, I have end grain here, I grab end grain here, match it up, and keep going. That's flat grain, or you know, you can lay it out the other way, but this is how I do it. So this is half of the star, and you just continue end grain to end grain. So that way, end grain that way, and so here's the basic of the star. Now the next thing you need is to glue them up together in pairs. So you would take 2 rub joint, and you need that because you're going to need this measurement. So you would get your calipers, or whichever way you want to do it, set it up on a board, and you would take that measurement. Okay? And that measurement is what you need for a board of another color. So I would see that it's you can see that it's a little bit wide. It's 1/8 of an inch wide. So rip it down to the same width, so you don't have any overhang on the outsides of these. Now once you got your board the same width as 2 of those pieces together. Okay, so when I join these 2 pieces together, I got the same width. Okay. Now it's a matter of taking the center of this board. You have to be smack center. Okay, so I'll be right in between these 2 lines. There's my center right there. And what you want this for is, because you're going to be cutting this to a point like that, right to the center of both halves. and then cut it off this way. So you make a whole bunch, 8 of them, like that. And you can do, again, this chop saw. You can do it back on your same jig that you were just using. So in my case, I'm actually going to use the same jig that I was just using, since it's set up for 45. I'll show you what I do for accuracy on all these cuts. Once I know that this center line, I'm coming right through on the edge of my blade cut, which is this cut right here on my fence, set it up, do a temporary pencil mark, or put a stop as a gauge. So when you flip it over, you're always going to line up that piece of wood to that gauge that you just set up. So I do that. Well, gotta raise up the blade. Okay, and the important thing, now I lost it there, but when I flip it over, I'm just lining it right back to those marks. And that should be, what's the point, exactly. So I'm exactly on the center of this piece. Now we gotta cut them off, and continue this until you make 8 of them. In my case, I'm going to use my bandsaw just to cut this and repeat this 8 times. So I'll bring, since I don't need the miter, I'm not doing this on a miter cut, bring this back to 0. And this cut is not crucial as far as your angle. I'm gonna cut it, passing it up. Oh, I'm gonna pass it up about 3/4 of an inch. I'll put a stop to it. So I'm going to make 8 of these. So to speed up the process, since I know my mark is correct, I will do this I'll do 2 at a time. This is my first mark. Flip it, bring it back to that same mark. Do the back end of the piece. You might as well. So you get the 2 cuts. So I get 2 cuts when I go through the bandsaw instead of 1 at a time. A little bit of glue. End with end. Factory cut, or whichever way you want to call that. Okay, end grain with end grain, and keep it oriented that way. Two, 4, 6, 8. So that's, I got my 8 pieces over here. Now you can put these already together this way, or you can put these wedges, which fit right in between here, just like that. So I'm going the best way that I know, that I see, that is more accurate if you don't want to rush it, is to put the star together first, and then once it dries up, then do those. So now, since I got end grain with end grain, on those ends, these will always match up, cross grain to cross grain. Now once you get your star together and you're pretty happy with it, you can use a hose clamp, you can use a piece of tape, but you cannot put too much pressure on either one so you don't start knocking these stars out of the way, you know, so they don't start twisting up. All you want to do is just a little bit of pressure. I mean, I got almost no pressure. I can literally open this by hand away from it, just so you can make slight adjustments as you see you need on the pieces, and see if there's any piece that's opened up. This is the time that you address it and fix it up and make sure that your star is centered. And you can tell if it's centered if by these V's, the V joints, if they don't match up exactly, or if your center cut doesn't line up exactly. So I can see that I'm slightly off on one side, and that's the drawback of the clamp, is it's very easy for it to do that. It can push one half or the other out of your way. So get your lines matching up perfectly in the center, and that's what you're looking for. Now I can slide this right out of here. Like I said, I don't have much pressure, and in my case I probably don't even need it. The cuts are really good, but if I don't use that, I need to use tape. So I'm going to just slide it back in there so it locks it up, holds it in place, and that way I don't have to worry about it, or I'm not going to be using tape. Just closing it up slightly. My lines are still good. I'm matching. The lines are perfect, going end to end, and that's what you're looking for. So at this point you would let that dry for about an hour. You can work on this for 15-20 minutes from now, but you can't apply a lot of pressure or you open it up again. But if you wait an hour, that's plenty of time for this to get a good grip and be not cured, but be held strong enough that you're not going to be able to open it out just by sliding one of these in between. Okay, so the star has been here for about 15-20 minutes. Good enough to remove out of the clamp. Take these wedges, put glue in them, put them together. Again, don't need a lot of glue. Good. And like I said, this has not had time to cure up, but there is your star embedded. Now if you wanted to go further with this, like I said, you could technically put other wedges in between this. I mean, I don't fit it with a clamp, but if you wanted to make this solid so you would end up with a white piece outside of your star and not just your star tips, you would put these little wedges or whatever you wanted to put up in between, and you would end up with a star plus a little bit of a radius around it. And there we go. So now I would have the star, and I could make this come up a little bit further up by gluing those in. So if you didn't want to do this and you wanted to end up with a bigger piece actually, and you did your first 4 of this exact width, and you did the second 4 anything wider than this, then this miter cut would continue going all the way through, and you could get it to fit where you don't have to put these little wedges in between. You could actually make 4 of the narrow ones the same width, and 4 slightly larger, or about this width anyway, but the same type of a cut. You would cut them off, you know, do your points and then cut it off square. On the back end, you would end up with 2 pieces that would continue going all the way to the outside edge. So that's another method that you can do this. Well, probably confused you with this last part. So here's one with the open ends, here's one with the closed ends, and they all do the same. Next time I'll show you on how you would use this stuff. Not the making it, but how you would incorporate something like this into a. See you next time. Take care.